Hello and welcome to the Bourbon Bear, and it is possibly the greatest day of the offseason, that is draft day. And on the show today we have my good friend and loyal Bears fan, Jake Mason. How are we feeling, Jake?
Bear down, Luke.
Bear down, my friend.
Looking forward to it. Thanks for having me.
Just had a baby too, future Bears fan. Got to keep the bloodline going. I love it. So I want to start it off though. A lot to talk about today, especially with the draft, but just kicking it back to the end of the Bears season in 2024. Not a great season as a whole, but a great confidence booster for Caleb, beating the Packers 24-22 at Lambeau Field. Their first win at Lambeau, and I want to say, I don't even have that in front of me, but it has to be almost like 10 years, I'd say.
Yeah, I believe we were on a 10-year span, if I'm remembering correctly.
And I just want to mention...
it wasn't 10, it was 5 years in a 10 straight game losing streak, if I remember correctly.
That sounds right.
So I was lucky enough to be at that game with our fellow friend Mark Knudsen, who was a diehard Packers fan. So I was able to rub that one in a little bit. I think, like you said, honestly, that was probably the highlight of the entire season, to be honest with you.
And that's what the weird thing was with the Bears last year. And I'm glad Caleb gets that confidence booster going into 2025. Team as a whole really does. You had to get rid of Eberflus. It was a mess of a coaching staff. After a good start, and then that Washington game happens, everything falls off a cliff. You lose to the Cardinals and the 49ers back-to-back, and just ugly, ugly losses. And then they just couldn't muster anything after that. Yeah. A previous host, Connor Murphy, had even said, fire Eberflus, when we were, I believe, 4-1 at that point. He was right. I got to give him that.
Well, I think there was a good population of us saying that they should have got rid of him last year coming into Caleb's rookie season. So I think with that, I'm just looking back at some of my notes here, and you asked me, the first question was like, what is your thoughts on last season? Like, the first thing I put down is failure.
Yep, like, it was failure. It's the spirit.
It was a failure. Let's be real, right? Honestly, there were so many. I remember sitting there watching these games with my wife, and she's like, have you ever seen this happen before? I'm like, no. Like, absolute collapses, right? And then you got the coaching staff coming out and saying, oh, well, those 14 yards didn't matter on the Fail Mary play.
Oh, my God.
And all
that
the
was
things,
just
right?
so bad.
It's like, watching it to the end, yes, we went through the 10-game, 11-game losing streak, all of the things. So I think just bringing it back to the Green Bay topic to start this off, like to see, the Bears come out of that with a victory, especially in the way that they did. I remember sitting there. I told our buddy Mark, I'm like, the Bears are gonna figure out a way to lose it. Then DJ Moore fumbles the ball. The Bears are losing. I'm like, dude.
Watching that was a roller coaster.
To actually see them, make it through those trials, tribulations, and come out on top at the end. Like, I feel like, that's
what I'm going for. It's like good for Caleb to end on a game-winning drive to beat your rival at their home field. All that like times well with how this team's going. I mean, right now with Ben Johnson being hired, a lot of expectations going off the board, in terms of how good he can coach this team. Great track run in Detroit. I mean, my God, what he did with that offense. And you have what everyone hypes as a generational quarterback, which we didn't see much of. There were some moments, don't get me wrong, with Caleb. Still on the fence with him. I think this year he's going to have his breakout year. But what do you think Ben Johnson can do to change his game?
Well, this might be cliche to say, but honestly, in my opinion, I think a lot of people's opinions, like football, like the coaching staff and how the team is run is most important out of any professional sports, specifically for the schemes, the things that the coaching staff is able to do to get your players open, aka the wide receivers, the tight ends, etc. Like, we just saw time and time again. Like, it's like what is the game plan? What is the scheme? So, watching what Ben Johnson's been able to do over in Detroit, bringing that here, I think we were having conversations, pre the hire. I had some hesitations on saying Ben Johnson was absolutely the person because I felt, we needed somebody to come and step in, had previous coaching experience, things like that. I'm taking a step back from that. I am going to say that I think I was wrong by that because everything that we've heard from Ben Johnson at this point in time in terms of coming to the media, speaking to the team, etc., like, the dude sounds like he's on point.
Well, and that's where, like, just the cultural shift, you almost see it happen in real time because when you had the choice of Bruce Arians versus Mark Trestman, They went Trestman.
Yeah.
Bruce Arians comes out to be this fantastic coach.
Yep.
It's really like the whole culture in RIP to Virginia. Gotta RIP Virginia. Raise a glass, take a sip.
Mongo as well. I think we'd be remiss on that one. So.
Mongo too. We'll do them both at once. But I think you're seeing like they're starting to make smarter moves, and I really do think Ben Johnson is the right hire for what Caleb can be. Again, you saw some great flashes, but you also saw him take too much time in the pocket.
Yes.
You saw him miss some pretty easy throws that, it happens, whatever. But again, like that coaching staff, to your point about it being the most important thing in any sport, completely agree. They could not get on the same page as him, use his talents correctly. Everything he did, it almost was getting murdered back there. I mean, 9 sack games. It's like, come on, guys. But Ben Johnson, I have faith in him. I think he's going to be a great head coach. Staff around him seems very excited. And now it comes down to, can you deliver? And the first part of delivery, especially on offense for Ben Johnson's talents, is the new offensive line. A lot of moves made this offseason.
Yep.
Finally, we got the best available center because we kept just band-aiding it. They had Bates, they had, Cole. It's whoever it was. Now you have the best free agent available center, which I think this all starts with. How do you think the additions of Dahlman, Thuney, and Jonah Jackson are going to play in this grand scheme?
So I know this may be going against the grain, considering we got an All-Pro in Joe Thuney, but I
older All-Pro though. That's the one thing.
All-Pro, but been an All-Pro the past 2 years.
Yep.
Had not been All-Pro previous. So he's still playing at the top of his game. I think that's obviously what the Bears needed, but I think the Drew Dahlman signing is even more important than Thuney or Jonah Jackson, any of the other signings actually for the offseason, right? Like, I think we've watched this since Olin Kurtz. We've watched them bring in people that aren't true
Don't
centers,
work out.
and it doesn't work out. We put together this makeshift line of people that we think can play these
grow into the role, as they always said.
It's no, let's stop that shit. We went out, we got our center. Whether we overpaid or not, I don't think we necessarily did in comparison to, he's now he's now top paid center.
No, he's third highest paid center. Yep.
So with that, I can't complain about that one bit. And everything he's come out and said, and what we're hearing about his play style, his mentality in the locker room, all of those things, yeah, dude.
I'm going to bring Thuney up back later and when we get the draft conversation, but I did want to bring up Jonah Jackson though. $14 million a year for a guy, an extension for a guy that played, I believe it was one game last year. I know Poles, former NFL offensive lineman for the Bears, I mean, he claims to have an eye for this. I think Darnell Wright was a great draft pick. I mean, he's looked great on the right tackle spot. Was that an overreach, though?
I think this was a Ben Johnson move.
You think so?
I do.
Okay.
I think this was purely a Ben Johnson move. He played with him in Detroit before he ended up becoming a free agent last year when he went to, I think...
It was the Rams.
It was the Rams. Yep. Rams. But I think he played 4 games, which is not a lot.
Okay.
But out of those 4 games, they also had him playing center, which he's not a center, so they had him playing out of position, all of things, right? I guess this is where we have to put our trust in Ben Johnson and trust that him making these moves, and this is where I think it is a Ben Johnson move to go get him and then extend him. He's banking on he's going to be the same player that he was in Detroit before he went and got the big contract in LA, right? So I think
14 mil's a lot for a guard, though. That's all I'm saying. All I'm saying.
A guard that played 4 games last year.
Yeah, exactly. That seems like a stretch, but again, if you trust Ben Johnson, you have to trust what he's doing.
I mean, you have to at this point, and I think, especially with that extension, giving him 2 years on top of the year that was already on there, we got to be all right with it. I just hope to God it's not another Nate Davis situation of, getting someone in here that's not going to be on the field.
I mean, the Nate Davis, that and the Chase Claypool were 2 moves that are still going to sustain Ryan Poles' legacy. Unless he gets Super Bowl, then everything's forgiven, obviously. But going on to the tackle position, though, you still have Braxton Jones, who, again, gets hurt, but is a very serviceable left tackle, and Darnell Wright, right tackles, looked very good. The draft's going to have a lot of implications of what they do, and it sounds like Genty is going to be the Bears' pick. If anyone listening before this comes out for the draft, sounds like the Bears are going to trade up to get him. Not verified by any means, but a lot of Vegas odds just swung significantly to the Bears getting Genty.
Yes.
So what we're going to have to give up, I'm assuming he's going to be one of our second rounders, especially in a year where you really need depth on the defensive and offensive line. We really don't have much depth there, to be honest with you. What are your thoughts on what's going on in Vegas?
Well, we were texting about it earlier.
Yep.
There's a lot of people really excited because they want that game wrecker running back in Ashton Genty. Great, like, if that ends up being the case, sure. But I think you hit the nail on the head. It's like we're looking at this, or I feel like if we go with that pick, it is Ryan Poles and the team saying we've filled the other holes that we have. And I personally don't feel that we've totally filled those holes. Braxton Jones is not healthy. They've already said training camp starts, he's going to be limited.
No, he's healthy.
Oh.
They said he's healthy.
So they said he's no longer going to be limited.
No, he's not limited
Okay.
at all. Mm-hmm.
All right. So I guess that changes.
Maybe
a little
that played
bit,
into it, yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's in a contract year, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Contract year, somebody who hasn't been able to stay on the field all of the time.
And they let Jenkins go right away, too. So it's
Right.
like, hey.
So, my dream scenario, is you get a Will Campbell in there, and
So you're talking Will Campbell second round, though.
I'm saying do not draft Genty, and I'm saying you go.
Yeah.
You go
Later.
in the trenches in round one if possible, right? Like you get a Will Campbell in there or a top-notch left tackle, even if you get that person in the second round, you're giving Braxton Jones competition to have to prove that he's going to be the best left tackle on the team. Right?
So, and I want to bring that up too because obviously it's speculation at this point. You never know what's going to happen. It sounds like when Vegas knows, though, they know, but you never know what happens in an NFL draft. And they had Oregon's left tackle Josh Connolly very highly rated on their board. He's probably going to go in the first round. I don't think he's going to go in the second round. Maybe there's a trade back scenario. Again, now with all the news that came out. If we did this podcast yesterday, I guarantee you we could have had so much more fun about what they could have done. Because ideally, I thought they were going to trade with the Colts and get Banks Jr. at 14. Yep. Colts would trade up for Loveland because I'm assuming Tyler Warren was gone. Let's just keep it, though, without us knowing the knowledge now. The Bears are currently at 10. Let's say you stay at 10. What do you do?
Well, I think as a fan, and I guess as even Ryan Poles at the front office, you're hoping that wide receivers, the running back, Genty,
quarterbacks go, yeah.
Quarterback, and depending on which route you actually want to go, because I'm not against the Mason Graham.
I would love to have Mason
honestly,
Graham. I think that'd be huge.
My perfect pick would even be Mason Graham over one of these offensive tackles, and hear me out on why. We have Grady Jarrett.
Yep.
We have Billings, who's in a contract year.
Well, you have Dexter starting over Billings, but yeah.
But I don't know about that. Billings is your run stopper, man.
That's true.
Billings, I think, probably gets a start, and Dexter's your rotational guy. He didn't show us what we needed last year. We need somebody who is a stalwart on that defensive line that we are going to be able to say is going to be the blue chip defensive lineman to be able to help our defenses.
I will say, Billings obviously had the pec tear last year, which cost him most of the season. But I think Dexter did a very good job on the inside. I think he deserves a starting spot. I'm all with you. It's great to have depth in that position, but let's be real. Right now you have Sweat and Deo on the edge, though. Is there any chance they make a move for Carter? What would you think they'd have to give up? I guess.
So, assuming the physicals and the medical reports, all that stuff are coming back to the team in a positive
for Carter?
way. For Carter, yeah.
He wasn't hurt.
Yeah.
Did he get hurt?
He had. I forget what his surgery was. It was foot surgery. It wasn't necessarily good. It was right before, I believe, right before the combine.
Oh, okay.
So it happened after. It was an after-season surgery that ended up going down. So I think that's creating question marks, and that may be a reason why he slides down a little bit. But
I think he's going third. I think he's going third.
If we're gonna trade up for somebody, I'm trading up for him, not Ashton Genty.
I agree. Or Mason Graham. I think that's actually fine. I don't like the trade up for Genty. I get the splash signing, have that, Ben Johnson, Montgomery, and Gibbs type scenario. I would rather have that defense solidified, though, in my mind. And Carter would be great, but both of them, I don't know.
If we were maybe 1 year advanced, if we were looking at next year, and we were saying, okay, we've put these extra pieces into the key critical positions. Not that running back isn't a key critical position, but like if we didn't have to think about the trenches, sure, by all means, like he's gonna be a game wrecker, but like we're not to the game wrecker point in time yet. We need to continue to build those pieces that are going to be here long term. Not that obviously Genty would be here long term as well, but what kind of...
Well, he'd be here at least the first 4 or maybe 5 years. But the other thing to that point, though, is the fact that, hey, you drafted Roschon Johnson.
Yep.
You have DeAndre Swift, who you already paid. Is running back really the priority? And I'm thinking no, unless you have no faith in Roschon and no faith in Swift. And Swift's counter to, I guess, the signing, he did not look great last year. Like, he had a couple explosive plays. Ben Johnson already called him out saying, hey, you need to, like,
hit the hole.
Get the yards. Get the yards. You don't need to get the explosive play. Get the yards you need to. And I thought Roschon Johnson would be that guy, but he also didn't look great in there. So it's kind of
I don't know. I hate to say it at this point, but I feel like Roschon, I feel like they've almost written him off. Right?
I'm starting to think that too.
Especially with the new coaching staff coming in.
If they draft Genty, I guarantee it. If right now I'm kind of limbo, but
the other name that pops into mind, same way, Tyler Scott. Right? Those guys, like, they were kind of filtered away last year and put on the back burner. I know Roschon had the concussion and stuff like that.
Yep.
Like, Tyler Scott was somebody who was healthy, scratched all the time. So, like, going to the Roschon piece, like, he could be I don't think they're going to cut him, but he could get cut. Maybe.
No, they'd probably move to special teams over who the scat back we have. I'm drawing a blank there, but
yeah, but they keep. I know who.
Yeah,
not Ian Wheeler.
No,
he got hurt.
But regardless, I think they'd move him to that. I mean, they have him on contract for no money, so I mean, you're not going to cut him by any means. But end of the day, it's going to be more about if you really want Genty, it's going to be him and Swift, which is fine. But then Swift's going to have to change his personality, or else it's going to be only Genty. And granted, on the Swift contract, though, we have a very easy out after next year.
Yeah.
So it could be just, hey, he's going to be our bell cow, the Saquon Barkley of, the team. But
let's be honest. So, you bring up the Ben Johnson, Gibbs, Montgomery comparison. Like, if you look at the year that, like, they signed Gibbs, they signed Montgomery to, like, a $9.5 or $10 million
No,
contract.
Montgomery was $5 million a year for 3 years.
Are you sure?
That's all it was, I think. Look that up while I explain this.
Because
everyone made fun of Detroit. You looked that up, but Detroit, everyone laughed at them when they drafted Gibbs, and it was like a head scratcher of why would you do that in that spot you were in the draft.
2 years, 18.2.
It was only 2 years, so he's no, he can't be off contract yet, can he? Maybe it was 18, 3 years. But anyways, everyone laughed at Detroit when they made that pick. Everyone's like, what are you doing? But Ben Johnson obviously has that mind where I'm assuming he had the input to make that decision. So if he wants Genty that bad, I'm not going to be mad about it. It's one of the premier, players in the draft. Like, premier players. Like Carter, Travis Hunter, and Genty. I think they're like the three, and Cam Ward, obviously, but...
Which...
Do you have the numbers yet, or no?
Sorry.
No, yes, you're good.
So what it's telling me, I feel like maybe they added on.
I think it was 3 years, $18 million. Now that I'm thinking about it,
it says 2024 to 2027. So they must have tacked on 2 extra years.
Maybe they gave an extension.
David Montgomery signed a 2-year, $18.25 million contract, including 3.25.
I think his initial, was something different than that, though.
Like, I think with that, though, like, it's not going to be... it's not all that different than what Swift's contract is.
Yes,
right?
Yes,
so it's comparable, and I think that's... Like, we've seen the Lions do it. That's why I'm, like, all but sitting here thinking when the Bears go to the podium tonight, Ashton Genty is going to be the pick.
I don't disagree with you.
Totally wrong.
The Vegas odds are telling us it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
The track record of the coach, again, could be totally wrong. And something else that I don't know that we should take into perspective, but something that very well could come into the decision process. It's like, did Ben Johnson come in here and say, like, number 10 pick, that's mine? Like, I want control of that number 10 pick, or is it, hey, we need to come in, we need to do...
So, I don't think... obviously you can demand that, but I think it was more about Caleb, to be honest with you, than it was about what's going on right now, because I think everything shifted when, everyone announced, I think it was the even Cleveland. So the 2 through 5 teams all announced like they were open to trades.
Yep.
Dallas Cowboys really wanted a playmaker, which still might happen tonight. They might trade up and do a crazy offer and get him. I don't know. But I want to do a realistic assessment, though, of the fact that if we don't trade, let's say, all these rumors are false.
Yep.
Who do you want at 10? Or who do you think is available at 10 that you want on the team?
So, we got in front of us? Titans? They're going Cam Ward.
They're announced.
They're going
That's
Cam
done.
Ward.
That's done.
There's, I guess, where I have trouble pinpointing this is there's so many question marks in front of us. Because the Browns, they could go any direction. The Giants,
they're going Travis Hunter.
The Giants.
They basically said they are.
The Giants are an absolute debacle.
They want
pull
picks.
Something out of left field or totally bail, right? Bail out of that spot, and
I think they're the easiest trading part right now. That franchise is a mess.
They are an absolute mess.
They want picks.
So I think if I look at this, the teams in front of us, right? Like a lot of these teams are, in my opinion, are probably going to go offense. We got the Jets. You don't think they're going to go get Justin Fields?
I think they're going to get Tyler Warren.
I think they're going to go Tyler Warren.
Yeah, I think they're going Tyler Warren.
The Jags, they don't need a running back. They're not going to take Genty. So you think they're going to take a running back?
I think that's where the Bears are going to trade.
Well, that's what
because the Oakland's going to take him if they don't. But the Jags, they've never really had they did the playoffs 2 years ago, but they kind of want some excitement for the fandom. I feel like they would make that pick if the Bears weren't open to trading. I just don't like the Bears giving up a second rounder to get that far. It's like, shoot.
So I guess looking at this, right, looking through 1 through 10, who's the most realistic person to drop? One of the tackles is going to be there. I don't think it's going to be I don't think it's going to be Campbell. I think it's either going to be Membu or Kelvin Banks as your tackles.
I don't want Membu, though.
I don't want Membu either. And
if Campbell drops, God, take that in a heartbeat.
Campbell, yes. By all means. And he's actually the only one that's been pegged as a true left tackle out of those 3.
They're complaining about his arms, though.
But, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe this is just the fan side.
No, I agree. It's everyone overhypes the arm thing.
And this is where the draft starts to frustrate me, is the scouts that are coming out. It's hey, the arms are too short. So perfect example is a prospect like Mike Green or some of these other edge rushers that literally have no stats to back up what they're now projected to be drafted as, because they went to the combine and they freaking ran a 40-yard dash.
It's not even just the combine; it's a Senior Bowl too. And they're one example is going to be he should rise crazy. I agree with you there, but I think if Will Campbell
production over traits, in my pick.
The thing is, though, with how the NFL works, giving up a second rounder, in my opinion, when you have 2, not necessary.
No, you're giving up a potential starter.
But the issue is, though, all your blue chip guys are kind of projected to go in the first 9 picks is the problem. But if you have something crazy shake up where the Patriots, draft Genty, and then all of a sudden the board goes to scramble mode, that's where I'd be really curious of who's available at 10. Because my ideal scenario is that the Colts really want Loveland. You can trade back from 10 to 14, get a second or third rounder, and get Banks.
Yeah.
I would love that. That's my ideal scenario. Probably not going to happen.
I mean, no, probably not.
No.
I feel like I'm very much we're kind of in no man's land at number 10.
Exactly.
Because you're literally 2 picks, and going back to how we said the end of the season was the highlight for the Bears. If we would have lost that game, we would have been drafted
a great
7,
spot.
Right?
Yep,
we would have drafted 7, 6.
Agreed. Mm-hmm.
Right? So I think, that's maybe one knock on that, although the win over the Packers is
worth it. It's totally worth it.
Way worth it. So I think that's where it's okay, we're sitting at number 10. There's... Everybody is specifically saying this draft outside of the top 5.
It becomes a bell curve. Yeah,
it's everybody between 10 and 60 or 10 and 70 are all kind of on the same playing field,
and you can get a running back later.
So I guess that's where I'm getting to with my point, is that with that being the case, unless you are so freaking convinced that if we can draft up and this person is going to become a freaking
he has to be Saquon
player,
exactly. It's got to be Saquon.
A Saquon worthy player, if that's the case and that ends up being it, I'll put my foot in my mouth when it happens. But right now, we've watched so many drafts in the past 5 years that we didn't even have picks. We didn't have picks in the first 2 rounds. And now we're talking about trading either 39 or 41 potentially move up. 39 or 41, both of those positions that you draft should hypothetically be starters and or immediate contributors, and you're losing one of those people.
Exactly. And those need to be immediate contributors. I completely agree. But back to the question, though. So let's say you have Mason Graham on the board.
Draft him.
Yep.
If him or Will Campbell are on the board at number 10, by all means, that should be where they go.
Well, that's where it gets interesting, though. So I don't think Genty is going to go past the Raiders. They clearly want him. Yeah. And I really think there's a chance that they still draft him because they claimed publicly that they really want him. Mm-hmm. What available at 10, though, outside of... Well, let's take Will Campbell, Carter, Hunter, Ward, Graham, Membo off the board. You'd be happy with Tyler Warren.
I mean, I don't love it.
I don't either. I don't hate it. I don't
hate it, right? I don't... And maybe this is just... I don't know, me being a meatball fan, but it's I don't think of drafting a tight end in the top 10, right? And that might sound stupid and cliche, but it's okay, you already are paying Cole Kmet $40 million, $50 million a year.
No.
Not a year. Sorry, his contract.
No, absolutely not.
His contract's $40, $50 million.
But Brock Bowers bucked that trend, basically, for what he was able to do with the Raiders.
I know, but I think we all knew Brock Bowers and what he was capable of. Is Tyler Warren going to be that guy? I don't know. You heard Ben Johnson talk about how much they think he would just be a complete game wrecker and a challenge for you to, put a game plan together.
Well, it really, because we had Gerald Everett.
Yeah, he was horrible.
No, exactly. Horrible. So they couldn't run a 2 tight end set. And Mercedes Lewis had a false start every time he was on the field.
I don't.
But if you
has had over 100 yards receiving.
I'm just saying though, if you do have you can run that personnel, though, with 2 tight ends that they couldn't run last year, which opens up a lot more of the offense. And to your point, second round drafted running back, the Iowa guy that you like.
Yep, Caleb
and
Johnson.
I like the
between the tackles guy.
Tyreek Williams from Ohio. Oh, no, that's defensive lineman. Shoot.
So
Tevion Henderson.
Yep, Trevion Henderson, yes. And then Judkins is the other guy.
If you want to build the offense, though, that's what I'm saying how you do it versus trading up to get Genty.
Yes, 100%.
That makes sense to me.
So, based on what they're saying, it's this is the deepest running back draft that there's been in many years, in the way that you could get somebody who's very solid in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round potentially.
Well, that's what we said about Roshan Johnson, though, too.
Yeah, but
and it never really worked out.
I guess yeah.
And we're already giving up, which is kind of a bad sign, but
he hasn't even shown not to go on a tangent on Roshan, but we brought him in, or he was looked at to be the short yardage back. And until we started running him in the red zone or on the goal line towards the tail end, we weren't utilizing him properly.
Yeah, and that's the thing, though. That's just bad offense, though. And now we have Ben Johnson. Right. So can Ben Johnson work with that? I don't know.
Is that a scheme problem?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Roshan and David Montgomery have a lot of the same traits as far as that straight ahead downhill runner, not shifty, not jukey. I think that was kind of one of their plans or their thought process when they brought him in to begin with, was to kind of have that downhill guy, and then we just haven't been able to see it.
So let me get your one opinion on this. So obviously with the Vegas odds being updated as they are, it sounds like the Bears are going to go Genty, but if they don't, give me your prediction on who they draft. Which sucks. If we'd done this earlier, I mean, that today's curveball sucked. Because this was a lot more fun a week ago.
So, if we're taking Genty off the board, I'm going to go with... I honestly think that Mason Graham could fall.
Really?
I feel like Mason Graham could fall. So, if we look at this, right? Titans are taking quarterback. The Browns have come out and said that they're
Travis Hunter. They're doing Hunter.
But who?
Travis Hunter, the wide receiver quarterback, yeah.
The Browns, yes. So... somebody's going to be taking Abdul
Carter will go 3, yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So, outside of that, most of these teams, I would think are probably targeting offense. The only team that I could pick on this list is at number 8 in the Panthers of them potentially going with a defensive tackle.
No, I mean the Jags were the 31st ranked defense last year. So if for whatever reason everything goes to shit,
well,
then I think they take Mason Graham. But
but I think
you know what pissed me off though? This is where this is probably the point I'm getting to. If we trade with the Jags to get Genty, and then they somehow still get Mason Graham, they played us like fools.
They played us like fools. You're 100% correct. So I think another thing that throws a huge curveball into all of this, looking at the list, I think there's like 3 or 4 teams that also have brand new GMs, so we have no idea like what their typical thought process might be on how they approach a draft.
You know what the most intriguing one to me is? Derek Carr might not be able to play this year.
Right.
So what are they going to do with the Saints at number 9? They might take quarterback, and that would change the entire scale of what's going on. And we saw
it happen last year with the Falcons when they went with
Kirk Cousins, and they could draft the Penix. Right. Yep.
And then we all got to rejoice. So that's where I think, again, this year, regardless, like the Bears need to stand pat and be patient because you saw what Ryan Poles was trying to do last year to move up and get Rome Odunze and get super aggressive and trade up 2-3 spots to be able to get his guy, and he was able to sit patient because of Ian Cunningham's telling him, don't do it, and we were still able to get our guy.
So my ideal scenario, though, back to that point about the Colts trading for Loveland and getting Banks, do you think there's any chance that happens?
I think there is a chance. I mean, I've heard rumors, again, just rumors, but what about the Cowboys? What about the Cowboys? What about Deion Sanders? I know they got Dak Prescott, but, dude, you tell me that if there's one owner that's crazy enough to do something like that in the NFL, it is your
the NFL flavor of the week has been like wide receiver too. And I mean, you've got a great receiver in McMillan, who I don't know where he's going to go.
I mean, he could go top 10.
He could. That's what I'm saying. Like no one's really talking about that. It's kind of like I don't know. Wide receivers become so important in the NFL to get early because of the contract value.
Yep.
You've seen wide receivers getting paid. What, Tyreek Hill was $30 million, and now CeeDee Lamb was what, 35?
I don't even know.
Jamar Chase was what? I don't even know what his contract went for, but he set the mark. It's like you really want to get them young too, and that's why I love the Rome pick last year. I think Rome's gonna have a breakout year.
100%.
But I think that could be a low key dark horse of someone drafting.
I would agree, and I think that's where the question marks come. Right? Is looking at this and seeing how these other teams are actually valuing these players too. Because, like, dude, like there might be 9 teams in front of the Bears. There could be 4 out of those 9 teams, say a Will Campbell, that said his arms are too short. He's automatically off our list.
And then it's bumped. And then everything goes to shit. Agreed.
Like, I feel like Vegas odds do, I would say, I feel like they do heavily play a factor, and that's why all of this is swinging how I'm responding to some of this. But like there's a good chance that Luther Burden too, like you got Travis Hunter, Luther Burden, and McMillan. Like McMillan out of Arizona, I'm pretty sure he's supposed to be the second best behind Travis Hunter, and then it's Luther Burden, but Luther Burden didn't have a good year last year, so it might hurt his draft stock. But if 2 out of those 3 guys could magically go in this top 10 or in the top 9, like that would be so key critical.
And the one reason I bring it up too is because obviously it's the NFL draft first round, so anything can happen, as we saw with your point about Penix last year, where everyone was like shocked, and then the Bears got Rome. It's like that's amazing. But if you had to trade back though, how far are you willing to go back, and what are you willing to receive? Because again, that Oregon tackle that they really like, he's projected to go at the end of the first round. What would you want in return, I guess, to do? Or what's your furthest you're willing to go back?
I mean, so I feel like I'm more willing this year to trade back as far as like probably even like 21, dude. Like I think the Steelers,
bell curve again. Bell curve.
The Steelers are sitting back there. It's like if you were to trade back that far, like you should be able to get a pretty good return. So like if you're going to trade back, I feel like get as much as you can in return because of what we've said of these players between 10 and say 60 or the end of the second round, like being like such a question mark.
I'm about to go on a rant, so
it's like, like I don't want if they take like a Mike Green in that situation, I'm gonna be pissed. Like I don't like
why. I think that's if you trade back, you get Mike Green. That's fine by me. I don't care.
Know. Like yes, the only way I'm gonna be cool with that, I suppose, is if you are gonna trade back into like a 20 spot or something like that.
Well, then you better get a second rounder from that team this year because we need that depth.
Yes,
that's fine.
Absolutely. Like if you can walk out of this, if you're trading back and you walk out with 3 second-round picks, that's going to give you what? That would give you 4 picks in
top 75.
Yes, in top 75. There's not another team that has more than 2.
Can I say one thing though? Yeah. And you have to acknowledge this. Poles has been ass in the 3rd round.
Dude, he's been terrible.
Velus Jones Jr.
Terrible.
Pickens, who's barely played. And last year was I can't. I'm not even gonna try. I'm not gonna.
Out of Yale.
You're good. You're good at pronouncing that. I could not pronounce it.
Karan Amagaji.
But he has not done anything either yet.
No.
So I don't want a 3rd round. I want a 2nd round. He's been killing it in the 2nd round and 1st round. He's been doing fine. But my point is though,
he hasn't had very many 1st rounds.
We really don't want to trust him in the 3rd round. Well, I'm very superstitious at this point.
And that's where I have hesitation and questions on all of
the it's how you trade back.
Scenarios that we're even talking about because of that track record that that Ryan Poles has showed us beyond, like you're saying, that 2nd round. It's like we've had so many dart throws and flyers. Like,
well, imagine if they didn't trade for Claypool and they still had that 2nd rounder. That could have changed the game. Because I guess I'm going to go on a side point here, but they have to. I'm sorry. I love Byard. We do need to get a younger safety ready to go. And I think that's going to be the 3rd round pick this year. Knock on wood. That's good. Wouldn't hate in the 2nd round, though.
So, I think I evaded the question. I don't know if I evaded the question earlier, but I didn't answer directly. Like, top needs, safety is definitely in the top 3.
I think it has to be addressed.
You got O-line, D-line. I know I shouldn't.
No one's thinking about safety right now.
But it's like, you need the trenches. You do need a safety. And I do think you need another running back, but you don't need another running back in the 1st round.
No, that's why I'm saying, because specifically you can get in the 2nd round.
You also need linebacking.
Well, they signed T.J. Edwards the extension. I really like that. Tremaine Edmonds, we can get out of the contract next year, and then you can draft a middle linebacker. You can get that for very good value in the 1st round. Let's be real. I'm not too worried about that. Trade back and get
beyond that, though. Do you know who's the next person on our depth chart? Behind Edmonds?
It's Noah Sewell. Actually, I know that.
Right, that's bad.
That's not good. Bad. It's not good. Well, we got Sanborn went to the Cowboys. We didn't tender him. That was stupid. I agree.
For literally no money.
I completely agree.
You could have tendered him and still cut his ass.
Yes.
And it would have been fine.
I'm still very shocked at that one. That was weird.
So, to your point, like sleepers, like we need a safety. Because Brisker has not shown to be able to stay healthy.
So, Brisker is healthy now, though, and the concussions scare me, but that's why I brought it up. Because, I agree.
One more concussion, and they could be like,
exactly.
Hey, dude, your career, you can't play anymore.
And I was at the game where he hit that lick on the Carolina, whoever caught, I think it was their tight end, but I saw him he was not all there.
Like, watching that on TV, I was like, holy cow, they're leaving him in the game? Like, I watched the man stand up, like, staring at the ground, like, looking like he was in absolute no man's land, right?
And that's why I think we have to address safety. And I think the 3rd round is the worst round to address it because it's not a good history.
So, I guess that's where you, in my opinion, you have to also kind of rely on Dennis Allen and like his coaching expertise and his years of experience to come in to be able to help you identify that person.
I agree.
Especially like with him needing to be able to sit there and say, okay, I need to find somebody who's going to truthfully be a fit for the defense that we're going to be running.
But I'm saying you can, if you don't give up your 2nd rounder for Genty, you could address it there too. And you don't have to by any means, but if someone slips, like at least you have that option. And you can trade back, maybe get, whatever you need to get, but I just don't... The reason I don't like trading up for Genty is that it just limits you of what you can do. There's a lot of things we need to start planning for.
There's way too many holes still to be trading up and getting rid of draft capital to be able to get around.
I completely agree. And that's why I think the 2nd round, having those 2 picks is way more important than drafting Genty.
And it's
still probably going to happen, but we can only speculate.
If there is a complete game changer on the board at number 10, you best not trade back. But if there
we're trading up.
If you
That's
are
the
sitting
issue.
there looking at this board going, okay, I could trade back into the middle of the first round, or even maybe not even the middle, maybe it's only going back to 14, and you're still going to be able to get one of your top players on the board, you need to do that.
Well, that's the issue, though.
But who's gonna? The problem is
It starts right. The worst part is the Bears, like the bell curve point, starts right at the Bears. If the draft goes as expected, you hit the bell curve, like where it's like you're not getting your value, so you might as well trade back. That's why I think Poles is kind of like, I have to trade up because I want one of the premier players. I get it.
This is where you're hoping somebody has their eyes set on one of these quarterbacks, whether it be Jackson Dart,
Sanders too. That people are hyped
right?
up. I think he's going to go to Pittsburgh.
So it's like what those. Well, I guess Jackson Dart, based on like the big board I'm looking at, like he might not even be in the top.
Well, some
five
people say he might go to
like,
the Saints at 9, though.
well,
it's like
right.
shit.
So it's like there's all these different projections, but like if you could have 2 to 3 quarterbacks, like if there's teams trading up for say a Shedeur or a Tyler, I think it's however you say it out, Louisville, like he's supposed to be a hot name. Like if people are trading up or teams are trading up for a quarterback, that's going to be able to help.
Oh my God, for sure.
But the question is, how high are these teams on those quarterbacks?
It's
and
not a good.
knows.
It's not a good quarterback class. That's the problem.
I've heard people saying that like if Cam Ward was in last year's quarterback draft, he might have went in the second or third round.
I completely agree.
Not top first overall pick. Like that's where it's a little bit unfortunate that we are in the position that we are in with being in the number 10 spot, but you do what you can. You gotta.
So last question, because I gotta get this posted before we go to the Dunes. Also, storm the Dunes, ladies and gentlemen. Finley Dunes, great bar, Bears bar, go Bears.
Bears.
What do you think in a non-trade scenario? Because we already talked about the Genty, which a lot of people think is going to happen. Who do they get at 10? Your prediction. Make it now.
Final prediction.
If they don't trade,
if
not
no
non-trade
trade,
op scenario.
I think it might be Tyler Warren. I do.
Justify it. Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be a situation where he is technically BPA, best player on the board at that specific time. I think we could get some curveballs again, like I said earlier, and have maybe Campbell and or Mason Graham fall. But I do think it's going to be either a Tyler Warren or they may look at Loveland as well. It could be one of those two or a trade back scenario.
I'm going to say, I agree with you. If Tyler Warren's available, they're going to take him. That's fair. The one thing we're not talking about, though, is more that edge. And I think Jalen Walker might be, if he's available at 10, it might be their guy.
So,
and that's if every one of the people I want is gone. But I think that's a good pick, safe pick. Do what you got to do. I'm team trade back right now, but I think that's a good pick.
So
him or Banks, I think at 10, I'll be happy with.
So, all right, we're talking Michael Williams. I guess the big thing with him is, right, I guess, so he's 265, he's 6'5", 265. I think
he's meant for a 3-4, not a 4-3.
Right.
I agree.
And I guess, like, that would be my pushback on him is he's not a true edge. He's going to bounce back and forth between that outside linebacker spot and the edge. Now, if he could play outside linebacker and edge, for two.
No, hold on. You're totally right. I mixed up the order. I'm sorry. Banks Jr.
Oh, yeah.
Banks Jr. is my one. I mixed up the order. He would be my number 2 just because he's athletic enough where I think they could make him work in the defense. But Banks, I'm sorry. Texas Banks, yes.
At tackle. You're
saying
Williams is versatile enough that he could turn into that pure edge rusher that we are looking for.
Well, actually, what's ironic is on the 4-3, especially since we lost Sanborn, he could almost fill that role and be like a blitzing, linebacker. It could be a really cool position for him to play. And that is where
my nerdy footballness doesn't go as in depth as to know, like, okay, what is DA actually like thinking about this in terms of like how could this guy be a fit? Like, I look at his weight at 265. Like, he's right in that range of the size from what I'm hearing.
To be that third linebacker.
Right.
That's the thing.
be that third linebacker.
So you've got
and
not,
be able to
and
shift him
that's
down.
why I'm saying it, because like when you have you're running a 4-3, when you have those standard plays where you need a nickel corner in, that's a wild card because he could cover at that weight, like
Or he
he's
could
fast as shit, or he could blitz.
You
That's
could
a
disguise-
good component to a
That's where-
4-3.
I mean, you could disguise a ton of stuff with somebody like that coming up on the line of scrimmage and then dropping into cover.
Think about it. You have Dexter and Billings, or you have I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the guy we signed, Grady, right?
Great. Yep. Grady Jarrett.
So you have them all. There's a mess in the front. You have him blitz. You have him cover a tight end. He can do both. That's a pretty cool concept.
Yeah, I mean, and
that's up to the defensive coordinator. I get it, but that could be a really unique thing, though. That's what I'm saying.
So, and that's I think that's where a lot of these guys end up getting. I feel like to be very, very. What's the word I'm looking for here?
Well, the unique thing about the 3-5 though is like they're used to standing up on the edge, so they're used to they can go to the line whenever they want. They're going to have that position. It's all the same.
I don't know. Other people that I've heard a lot of talk about is like from an edge perspective would be like Nick.
Well, everyone says Green. Green's a big
out of Texas A&M. Mike Green. Again, I don't know how. There's a lot of things on the back
Shamar
end.
Stewart too is a big name.
So Mike Green, Shamar Stewart, both those guys, they're people that didn't produce. They have the physical traits and they have the numbers at their pro days, at the draft combine, etc. But again, it comes down to I don't want the Bears drafting off of traits at this point.
Yeah.
When we get to be in a good spot and we feel like we have that depth and the people
you hit
that
a
are
nail
solid,
on the head there.
By all means, you want to draft for traits, go for it. We don't have the liberty to draft for traits right now. We need to draft for production and people that have actually proven themselves in the SEC, the Big Ten, the Big Five conferences.
That's the reason I wanted to bring that up, though, is so the Raiders drafted that edge rusher, and I thought the Bears were going to take him, and I can't remember the name. I'm sorry, but he has not developed. He has not done anything really significant. Now he's in the trading block. It was a first-round pick. I think it was pick number 6.
What year? Do you?
I got it had to be 2022. Based now, I think so. But anyways, that's the point. You draft these development guys, and they can't do it.
So it's interesting because we bring that up and
that's gonna drive me crazy. I'm forgetting the name.
I'm gonna look it up here right now. But I think of situations like even a Leonard Floyd, right? You draft somebody on traits. He came out of Georgia, yes. You can't come out of Georgia.
But he really didn't do. And now he's still in the league, though. He never. Really
he left the Bears.
Yep.
He's had 10 to 12.
People thought we'd sign him
sacks,
last year. I was like, shoot.
Consistently, right? So it's again, I think going back to coaching and all of the stuff, that's where scheme, that's where coaching and development all have to come into play here. And
you're looking at this coaching staff, and I know our DC
Tyree Wilson.
Texas Tech. That's it. He went, I think, number 6. 7. Okay.
2023 draft.
I was so excited for him, but he has not done anything in the NFL.
No.
That's what I'm saying. If you draft these just bodies and you can't coach them, it's not going to work. It's the reality. So that's why I'm scared if we do. All right, last question, because we have to end this so I can post this today. Do you think there's any chance, and this is a what-if question, we trade with the Giants and get Abdul Carter? Pohl said he was going to make a splash. Maybe it wasn't Genty. Maybe that was it.
I'm not taking anything off the table at this point.
Yeah.
In his press conference.
What would you give up, though, to get possibly the best edge rusher since Myles Garrett, though? That's got to be both your seconds or a second and a future.
You're gonna
future
have to,
X.
Yeah, you're gonna have to give up your 10. You're gonna have to give up probably the 39, and you're probably gonna have to give up
future second or first.
Second.
I don't know if it would be first.
I don't think
second.
it would be a first.
Well, if you're getting the second this year, yeah.
I would say it would definitely be a future second, or say a future. I mean, it could be a third and fourth or something like that, right?
They're opening calls though. That's the thing. And 10's not too far from
Joe
3.
Sheen, I feel like that guy. like especially after last year and getting a little glimpse and maybe the whole what's the HBO show, the Hard Knocks, the glimpse into what and how he does business, but like that dude doesn't seem too smart.
Well, the reason I bring it up though is because the Giants are like publicly came out and said we're open to trading the third because they need so much depth.
The thing is they need a quarterback, but
they're not going to get a quarter. Yeah, they're not going to.
And they're not going to take Shedeur.
But in their defense, they need depth too. I mean, God, the team's a mess right now. Ever since Eli left, Jesus.
Again, that begs the question. It's like, okay, you're at number 3. Like
I would trade back. If I was them, I'd trade back. They would
trade back to get more picks to be able to build more of that depth.
But the one thing I want to bring up there, though, the Bears were not allowed to visit or mutual, but did not visit Carter because he said, I want to go in the top 4.
Only going to go to the top 4.
I don't think he can visit that guy, though. I saw his footage at Penn State. He would be perfect.
He played with like a messed up shoulder arm at in the last game of the season against Notre Dame and still wrecked shit.
But the issue is, though, and Dominique Robinson, he's done. Don't worry about that. But they were really hyped up on Booker. They traded a 5th to get they traded a 4th to get a. I'm sorry, what was that trade option?
We traded back in the 4th round, I think it was.
No, it was the 5th round, giving up a future 4th.
Okay.
That's what it was.
In order to get Booker.
Because they really had faith in him, so I feel like you shouldn't give up yet, so I don't know what's going to happen.
So I think that's where I feel like we're maybe very much overlooking what we've done. What Poles has done with drafting Karan Amagaji last year at number 3 with that at the tackle spot.
Again, 3rd round, he's been asked. I'm sorry.
And Booker,
let's be real.
Right? Like,
I liked Booker. We didn't see a lot of him. It was like
he was a developmental guy.
Like they were saying, if he would have stayed at Kansas, I think it was Kansas or Kansas State. One of the two.
He transferred from Minnesota to Kansas because he wasn't getting playing time. All right, he transferred from Minnesota to Kansas. Had I think a fairly stellar year, and then declared for the draft.
Yeah. So because they were saying if he would have stayed another year, he might have been a higher prospect.
I'm pretty sure he had probably one true year of starting experience before coming in. So it's like that dude's raw. He's a raw rookie that has very little experience. He sat on the sidelines at Minnesota, so he wasn't getting playing time. Hence why he transferred. So I think you have to expect him to take a massive step. Same with Amagaji. You have to expect them to take a massive developmental step in this year. Otherwise, those are failures of a pick. Especially trading back in. Granted, it's only a 4th rounder, but...
So we're over our time, though. So this is your unofficial Bears record. Go. Unofficial. Pre-draft. We won't count against you. Not counting against me. Because the draft, I think, is going to change a lot of things.
What would we be at? 10-7? Right? 10-7?
10-7. Jake Mason, 10-7. Called.
I'm going to stick with 10-7.
Luke Biondi is going 10-7. I'm with you. I'm right there with you. I think this team, especially with the rebuilt offensive line, the only question mark is how do they work together. But I think this team has the talent to be a 10-7 team. Nick Frett, when we went first pick in the NFL, had called the Bears I think it was a 12-win team. No, we got to be realistic. Yes. New offensive line, Caleb's 2nd year. So this also is concerning, but if Caleb doesn't perform this year with this new line, we got to throw some red flags everywhere. Yeah. As Bears fans, we're in trouble. But that's all the time we have for today on the Bourbon Bear. Bear down!
Bear down.
Get a good draft, boys.
Bear down.